buildings are cool. Arenas are great. Sports, I believe, are one of the most uniquely positive aspects of American life. But all that pales in comparison to like humans. And that's why we're here, is just to love each other and serve each other. And I think that San Antonio does that better than any other community in America.
Welcome to Breaking Ground SA, a Rexa podcast where we dig into real estate deals, developments, and decision makers shaping San Antonio. I'm your host, Stephanie Reyes, President and CEO, joined by my co-host, local policy expert, Rob Killen. Let's break some ground. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for an episode of Breaking Ground SA, coming to you from the IBC Bank studio. Today's guest is Randy Smith, co-founder and CEO of Weston Urban. Today we'll hear how Randy went from attorney to developer, and how Weston Urban is focused on people over building. We'll also talk about why downtowns are so important, and we'll get the latest on the new downtown baseball stadium. Thanks for tuning in. We have Randy Smith in the building. Hey, Randy.
Hello, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
There are so many exciting things happening around town, and you have a big part of a lot of that. So I want to get into it. But first off, what I know about you is that you used to be an attorney. So please explain to me how you went from attorney to developer.
The most noble profession.
Which one?
You tell us.
Right.
You tell us.
It was, the short answer, the truth, and the short answer is divine intervention. But, I grew up in Dallas, and for the majority of my childhood, and including what I think everybody involved would agree were the most difficult years, I was raised by a single parent. A little bit unique. I'm very proud of this in that it was my dad, single dad.
I was going to say single mom, single dad.
My father is an artist. And so I was just around. That was the universe that I was around growing up. And so I didn't really know what a lawyer was. I didn't know much at all about what I do now or anything adjacent to what I do now. And I have a very brilliant, very overachieving brother. And he always knew he was going to be a doctor, and so I fumbled my way through college, and sort of got to the end in Lubbock, Texas, and was both sort of unemployable and undermotivated.
What was your degree?
Rob, I'm not sure they offer it anymore. We can Google this.
Was this basket weaving?
That was an option. If they do offer it, I'll be shocked, or they may have changed the name. But on my diploma, it literally says Bachelor of General Studies. And put loosely, it was like, hey, how about you get to this many credit hours and we'll call it even. It was
Still trying to figure it out.
I loved it. It was a blast. But at the time, I just thought, I really don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I was always a very mediocre student with one very limited superpower, which was I was a standardized test taker. Like they just, that I could do. And so I went to, these things that we used to have called Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were actual stores, and in the stores they had books, like real books, paper books. And so I went and I got a bunch of practice tests, and I figured out real quick, okay, the LSAT, that's for me. And that was the end of it. There was no greater thought. I did not know a lawyer. I did not have any legal talent in my family. There was no one who had mentored me or that I looked up to. I didn't even know really what it meant.
So you're just real good at logic games.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it was more of a postponement of reality. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to sort of scrap my way through college, but I definitely had zero resources to go to law school. So at the time, I made a bulletin board in my room in Lubbock, and I listed out. You remember the U.S. News and World Report
the
top
listing,
law school ratings?
Yeah.
So I made a postcard, an index card for 1 through 20. Fairly certain I was not getting into number one, but you got to give yourself something to shoot for.
What was number one at the time? Do you remember?
Oh, back then Harvard and Yale took turns.
Harvard, Yale, Stanford were always kind of top three.
They just mess around.
And there's like this matrix they give you, GPA and LSAT score, right?
Yeah. And my criteria was I was going to go to the highest ranked one that was free. That was the That was how.
Okay.
So you're seeing how like technical I am here. Like I was really, I really had a plan. And so as time went on, that started to look less and less likely for me until finally it was, I can still see the bulletin board in my mind. It was bottom right. It was number 20. So I ended up going to law school in Lexington, Virginia at a tiny little school called Washington and Lee University. And just really fell in love with the town and the Blue Ridge Mountains and the people, but not necessarily like the study of law. That was I think I was probably kidding myself the whole time.
Did you know what kind of law you thought you might like?
No, I had no idea. I didn't even know what it meant, really. I mean, I'd seen it on TV, like in the courtroom. Yeah, like you can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Like that was to me kind of what it was. I had no concept of transactional attorney whatsoever, and then I picked up my old habits, which was I was in the basketball gym, not in the classroom. And I owe a debt of gratitude to, they call it a 1L, first year student. There was a third year student, and W&L is very small school. Okay. Very small school. And the law school is even smaller. To this day, it's one of the smallest law schools in America. Total student body is around 350.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Total, over 3 classes. I haven't been back in a minute, but at least then, that meant you only had to have one parking lot. And so as you know, like we Texans would self-identify by license plate. Mm-hmm. And if you saw another Texas license plate, you'd either wait for them or go over to them. and this gentleman was a third year and he had Texas plates. And we sort of hit it off a little bit. And I figured out very quickly that he was he was editor of the Law Review. I mean, he was someone
he
I
was
should.
Rob.
He was probably Rob, right? He was someone I should listen to.
No. I was on Law Review. I was not editor of Law Review. I was an editor, not the editor.
Which is still a huge freaking
Huge,
accomplishment.
Rob, huge.
I mean, huge. And so he gave me some counsel early on, and it went something. I remember it going something like this. It was, hey, I don't see you around here very much. And I said, yeah, I'm across the street, shooting hoops. And he said, I want to tell you how this works. This was 2000. He said, basically you have to be able to fog a mirror to get a job out of this school these days. And this was September. He said, in January, every law school in America is going to be on this campus, and they're going to have 1 semester's worth of grades to judge you by. And he said, what I know about you is if you can get in that room with them, you're going to be okay. And what I also know about you is you're never going to get in that room with them if you don't try. And so I still am thankful for this man. I tried for 1 semester. And what he said came true. I ended up, after my first year of law school, going to clerk for a firm in Richmond, Virginia, and just fell in love with the humans there. And that will be a common theme, I think, of anything we talk about is I'm in this for people and relationships. And I, to this day, stay in touch with the people that mentored me there and invested in me there. And it came true, and along the way, my wife and I started dating. She was going to women's college up in Virginia. So we got married, and I went to work as a lawyer in Richmond, Virginia.
For how long before you came to your senses?
I did not make it to 3 years. I did not. And in my heart, I didn't make it to 2 years.
Transactional work?
Like all transactional. So how I landed on that was in summer clerkships, it's really a sweetheart of a deal. I don't know. Does that still happen?
I think so.
Are there still summer associates?
I guess so.
It seemed too good to be true. It seemed
they pay you a lot of money to have, summer vacation.
I mean, if I'll say something kind of tacky, like my wife is wearing my summer associate paycheck on her left ring finger. Like, I'd have 2 nickels to rub together, truly. And this firm was going to pay me a stupid amount of money to essentially go to lunch with folks. It's nuts. I hope firms.
Sweet.
I hope they don't still do it that way.
It's a recruiting technique.
But it worked.
You're the top students. You're obviously a top student.
But it enabled me to buy an engagement ring and propose to my wife. So that was lovely. And early on, I went to a federal mediation. I remember thinking within 30 minutes, there is no way I could ever do this. I remember thinking, this must be what it feels like to buy a car. I'd never bought a car, but I thought, it was sort of the the mediator comes into one room and you talk about a deal, and
Yeah.
he might as well have been saying, let me go talk to my manager about that. I'll be right back. I'm going to go talk to the finance manager about that. And to me, it was such an unsophisticated way to settle something. And that was obviously the opinion of a 23-year-old who knew nothing. But I decided right then that I am indeed a lover and not a fighter. And I gravitated real quick towards the transactional work, specifically real estate. And I just sort of fell in love with it. Our firm was and still is to this day like the real estate firm in Virginia. And I got to learn at the feet of just some crazy, awesome men and women that poured into me. And to this day, I kind of regret that I was not able to turn around and give back to that firm that way. I'll never forget the moment I realized I was not going to be an attorney. This sweet woman who was so sweet would come into my office every Friday and close the door and say, okay, we're going to do your timesheets now. And I could feel, those things in your life where you feel the energy leave your body. Mm-hmm. You instantly know that you're at your worst. And so it was then also, Rachel and I share this story all the time. I was not at my best. I mean, I bet I was 25 pounds overweight. I was not being a good husband. I was finding my identity in my work, which is a fatal flaw. And she said, hey, big fella, you are either going to be a lawyer or married. And I'm going back to Texas, and I sure hope you're coming with me. So let me know.
I haven't met her, but I love her already.
Oh, she's the finest. So Rachel and I moved back in 2005 to Texas. We had both grown up in Dallas and had no desire to go back there. And that was sort of the beginning of our love story with San Antonio, as we moved back here and the way the community embraced us and just all of the things that, as with fresh set of eyes, with someone that had not been to San Antonio, that you can fall in love with so quickly about this place. And that's how that happened. So I worked for a home builder for just shy of 18 months.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it. It was land acquisition. And again, it was sort of peak lunacy. It was, let's go see what we can buy. I mean, that's fun.
We were all going up and couldn't see the cliff coming.
Yeah, what cliff? No, it's just going to keep going.
Yes.
And through that, I met a man named Steve Golden. And Steve Golden is he'd probably prefer I say like a big brother to me, but he's truly been like a dad to me in a lot of ways. He's been a mentor to me. And from that point on, I think my career is a series of like but for Steve Golden moments. And he called me one night. I remember exactly where I was. He said, hey, in the morning, I need you to have breakfast with another client of mine. And I made some excuse that you would make at the time. I was busy or I had something else. I had some real reason why I couldn't do it. And we sort of argued. And to this day, Steve has a habit that sometimes irritates me, which is at certain moments, he will talk to me like I'm his son, which was kind of okay 20 years ago. Yeah. And like today is, but
not so much.
He's finally said, hey, this is a very important client. I really want you to have, this is very important to me. You need to be at breakfast in the morning. So the rest of the story is I met Graham Weston at an IHOP the next morning. And,
it was Graham.
And found my way to Rackspace through that. Graham had this brilliant idea. We weren't through, a couple of eggs at IHOP before I was totally in love with both him and his ideas. And so that's how I found my way to Rackspace. And over that breakfast, Graham said, and I was young and an idiot and probably didn't read the Business Journal or the applicable publication at the time, and I didn't know what Rackspace was. And it was, 2006. I mean, I didn't know what it was. And he said, well, I've got this tech company, and we're hiring 100 people a month. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, right, dude. How could you even do that? And of course, all the things that Graham told me were all true. And he had this idea that we were, at the time, there had been no IPO. We were still a very private company. So not ridiculously capitalized. And B, the nature of the Rackspace business meant that if you had $1, you really should put it into a server, because that dollar would then generate many dollars. from customers. And so money for real estate was like not really a thing. And if you know anything about Graham, you know he has a heavy background in real estate and is just a brilliant thinker that way. And he pitched me on the idea of, hey, there's this abandoned shopping mall, and I think it could be an awesome home for all of our beloved Rackers. And so I was just in from the get-go. And so, yep, that's what took me to Rackspace.
So when did Weston Urban come into play?
You know, from the beginning of Graham and I's journey together, the notion was never that I was going to be some sort of long-term real estate executive at Rackspace. I think from the beginning we realized that our not just our ability to collaborate with one another, but our desire to collaborate with one another, that's really his superpower. And, you know, I hope he listens to this and he would say this. Graham Weston, on his own, left to himself, is moderately effective at best. Graham Weston plus a collaborator. So with Graham, kind of one is kind of one. 1 + 1 with him is 1,000. His superpower is to amplify a collaboration, and it's crazy. It is crazy. I've seen it so many times. He is just his gift. And so we kind of figured out early on that 1 + 1 with us was way more than 2. And there was always discussion of what someday might be. And then as we had an IPO in 2008, and then as 2011, 2012 came around, and this world of cloud computing really came back into the American lexicon, jargon, patois, it became clear that Rackspace was probably pretty good on real estate.
Yeah.
Like that mall is a monster. And even we had 5,000 employees in there. And let's just stop for a minute. Like if I put on my greater SATX hat and think about a 5,000 employee tech company hiring hundreds of people a month, like I will tell you for one, I would debase myself for that. For that type of prospect and opportunity. And we ought to all as a community. But at the time, it was kind of lost on me how special that was, really. But even at 5,000 people and growing like a weed, that mall is 28 acres under roof. Like,
wow.
We were never going to run out of space there.
It's a big space. I grew up going to Windsor Park Mall.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What was your store?
I spent time at the movie theater,
Yep.
which had been a Santikos originally. There's the arcade right next to it. The Arby's right across from the arcade. That was my teenage hangout.
Yeah.
And then it sat empty. And had a terrible backstory. What you guys did there was transformative.
Well, I lacked the historic context of it, but the notion of turning something fallow into something fanatical, something awesome, was just, again, what got me at that IHOP. And so really together, he and I launched on that. And then in 2011, 2012, in a lot of ways, Rackspace started to struggle more than usual for certain types of talent. And the idea that San Antonio at the time, and still today, I believe, is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the suburbs, is such a competitive advantage, truly. And as we look at some of our wins from greater SATX over the last 3 to 4 years, the lifestyle here, the ability to raise a family here, and the ability to, for a long time, the narrative was, it's a cheap place. That's actually not all that true. The way I like to frame it is, you get to keep more of what you make here. Yeah. And that is competitive advantage. You get to keep more of what you earn. And who doesn't want that? In 2011, 2012, if you were competing for a certain sector of tech talent, they wanted an urban option. That's not to say that every software developer we were trying to recruit wanted to live downtown. A lot of them were plenty happy to live in Stone Oak with, a half acre and a swimming pool for relatively affordable across a broad section of American communities. But we were losing folks and the shot at folks because we had this great option on one end of the spectrum and literally no option on the other end of the lifestyle spectrum.
It's interesting that you say this because I was just at lunch and having a conversation with Omar Gonzalez, Omar, and Jordan Arriaga-Worth.
Yes.
You know her?
Yes.
So we were chatting and, we were talking about the market and everything that they're doing. And I said, hey, guys, is it part of your mission or do you care about recruiting and retaining a younger generation of San Antonio residents? Is that important to you? Do you think about that in what you do every day? And, I said, I hear often that, people will come to college here and then they'll leave. And Jordan didn't agree with me on that. She said, I don't think so. I think, you'll run into more people that grew up here. And Omar said, this is a great place to raise your family. So if you want to go out and go somewhere cool, Austin, quotation marks, Austin or somewhere else, at the end of the day, and you'll come back to San Antonio and raise your family, what is wrong with that? That's amazing. Right?
Well, Omar's really a living, breathing example of that.
Yeah.
He went all over and came back. So, that real narrative should be the first thing you see if you go to the Weston Urban website.
I'm looking at it right now. To help build the city our kids want to call home.
There you go.
I love that.
Somebody said it better than I, but we believed that if we could help San Antonio be the city that our kids would move back to, that would be true for your kids and everybody's kids and nieces and nephews and grandkids, and that in doing so, it was not entirely, or maybe even, mostly altruistic. It was, how are we going to feed Rackspace with all these amazing employees we need? And that type of city seemed to us to be the answer. And from there, I've never really thought about it this way, but looking back, I thought that this was going to be, that Graham and I were going to jump in this thing together. And then through a series of circumstances, he finds himself back as the CEO of Rackspace. And so I went from, sort of jumping in a lot of ways downtown while he was still in Windcrest running a publicly traded company. And so at that point, it was, we know we always want to have a small company. To this day, there's 10 of us, 10 or 11. What we aspire to be is catalytic. We don't want to do everything. We can't do everything, but how could we partner with others to further that mission?
Yeah, let's name a few.
Okay, sure.
So, Frost Tower, Dry Goods, Milam Building, Rand Building, 300 Main, Legacy Park, Continental Blanc, the Savoy, the 425 Soledad. I could keep going. This is amazing. And the one that I wanted to ask you about is the Frost Tower, right?
Okay.
You guys were pretty bold to aim at changing the San Antonio skyline. And how long?
It had been, for some tall hotels had been built, for sure.
But this one may.
But an office tower had not been built in 30 years.
Well.
So it had been 30 years.
Who designed that? Because it's 24 floors.
Who designed Frost Tower?
Mm-hmm.
The firm was Caesar Pelle's firm. So Pelle Clark Pelle. It was one of the great true bucket list type things for me to get to work with Caesar Pelle himself. That he and I believe it's true that Frost Tower would be the last of his projects completed before he passed away.
Was there any coordination with any local firms?
Oh yes. No, you can't pull off something like that without quite a bit of coordination with local firms. Specifically on Frost Tower, Irby Hightower and Alamo Architects play a huge role in helping us navigate so many things on Frost Tower. But as opposed to a residential tower, office tower is actually quite simple. Now, not to belittle the effort that went into it, but once you get the basics down, you sort of repeat them as you go up. The exception to that was we wanted to have a gift to the tenants and to Frost. And so on the second floor, we have a lounge and a sort of a family room type space that's very special. And on that one, we partnered with Michael Ember. And and then of course, much of the engineering and landscaping and stuff like that. It was very heavily local, but Pelle Clark Pelle is based in New Haven, Connecticut. But what was interesting is some of the other members of the team, including Fred Clark. Fred was born in El Campo, Texas.
Oh.
And then Bill Butler, who was our lead design, was born at the Knicks Hospital downtown.
Oh, wow.
So in a lot of ways, for Fred and Bill, working on Frost Tower was a homecoming for them, and they were excited, and it was great.
It's a beautiful building.
The building is interesting. The land deal to get there and all the swapping. If you could take a second to talk about
take a
that.
second.
That was an amazing piece of work.
Well, that took a village, and that took a lot of leadership and a lot of vision, both from Frost Bank, and at the time Dick Evans was still the CEO at the beginning of these conversations, but Phil Green was in every. I mean, they were a dynamic duo. Phil, I believe, was the CFO at the time. So, with Dick Evans and Phil Green at Frost, and then with the city of San Antonio, because that does not happen without them. And it was this very special moment in sort of the arc of downtown. Mayor Castro was still in office, and Cheryl Scully was the city manager. And the two of them together had a passion for downtown that just was able to remove a lot of obstacles. And I think Cheryl, in particular, saw very quickly the value of consolidating her teams. And so today, if you go to City Tower, there is a lot that happens in one space. And that was, in a lot of ways, kind of our Rackspace belief of the mall, which is if you could get. If I could walk to see you and we could sit down and solve a problem together rather than emailing or getting in the car and driving across town to a satellite office, there's power in that. So it was for lack of better description, we would build Frost Tower, their headquarters. We would own it and they would lease it. The city would acquire Frost's previous headquarters, which is now known as City Tower. And then upon meeting a bunch of requirements, Weston Urban would acquire what I call like the spare parts. And so by virtue of that transaction, there was a lot of property that Frost no longer needed, and there was a lot of property that the city no longer needed. And it's incumbent upon us to take those spare parts and turn them into a vibrant downtown.
It was amazing. I worked in the old Frost Tower for nearly 20 years, and just watching it come up, and then the park, which Frost owned, we call it the park.
Did you really?
It's
a real park now.
It's a real park now with barbecue and everything, but it was just so transformed. Now the traffic tie-ups not great, but we managed to work through it. But
did you were you a big Plaza Club?
Oh yeah.
What do you miss the most about the Plaza? What's the one thing you miss about that building?
The convenience. I mean, be able to ride up an elevator and have a great meal, prepared quick, and see everybody in town.
For me,
all
it was
business leaders.
It was that chopped salad. Like I have told any restaurateur who will listen, if we could just get a chopped salad downtown, I would.
Okay, well, let's pivot. First off, why downtown? Why are you passionate about downtown? Why should people care and be passionate about downtown San Antonio?
I think that answer is probably going to be different for different folks. There are some folks that believe that downtown matters just based strictly on economics. That's where all the tax revenue is generated. I mean, on a per foot, per square mile, per block, whatever metric you want to use, downtown for all of our community's discussion about resources, be it limited resources, the best use of resources, how to use our resources across the broadest section of our community. Those resources predominantly are property tax dollars, and those property tax dollars disproportionately come from downtown. So it is the economic engine.
Yeah.
So there's a group of people that look at it that way. Is you have an incredibly dense area, a relatively small area. We are a city that likes to repeat the farce of being seventh biggest or whatever it is. And folks like us know that's just because we have this insatiable appetite to annex things. We're just a lot of just keep going. even so, even though our land area is massive, the overwhelming majority of resources originates in a little tiny spot in the middle. And so that's why some people think downtown matters. And I fall into that group a little bit. But I tend to look at it way more from the human perspective, which is, and this is admittedly may come off as a little cliche, but it truly is. Downtown doesn't belong to any one neighborhood or part of town. Downtown belongs to everybody. It is in a lot of ways the face of our city for visitors, both regional and domestic and international. I tend to fall more in line with a third group that says, like, I've just never really been to a great city in America or elsewhere that didn't have a vibrant core.
Are there any cities that you've traveled to that just, you're like, oh, this is what I'm trying to make happen in San Antonio? Or is San Antonio so unique you can't?
Well, I think more the latter, for sure, which is every city just needs to know, I've noticed in my 20 some odd years here now, that folks that grew up in San Antonio, I think it's lessening. But for sure, there has been a long time where there's this like almost deep insecurity about Austin, right? Like, we don't want to be Austin. Like, well, of course we don't want to be Austin. But I'll tell you, from many perspectives, I think Austin, Texas is San Antonio, Texas' greatest ally. Certainly from an economic development perspective.
Sure.
Like, that is an undisputed fact. But I also think the combined efficacy of our communities will be something that benefits us and our families and the families of San Antonio forever and ever. And that the outside world, I know from my work with Greater SATX, already sees us that way. Truly. I mean, we are viewed as a region. We're not very good at viewing ourselves that way. But within that, to answer your question, Austin just needs to be Austin.
Yeah.
And we just need to be the best San Antonio we can be. And so I wouldn't look at another city and say, we want to be like that. There are aspects and things that other cities have done well that I think we can look at, and they're not always the big, hallmark cities. They're not. It's really not fair, I think, to compare San Antonio. The obvious ones are like, why would we ever compare ourselves with New York? That's silly. I mean, I think we can all say that's silly. But even here, closer to home, I do not think that as San Antonians we should ever be comparing ourselves alongside Dallas or Houston.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree with you 100%.
A, our cultures are unique and different, but B, just at scale. Like, I think the MSA of Dallas population is 8.5 or 9. Like, this is something literally four times our size.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone here, or at least most folks here, really aspire to be a mega city like that. I think what we have going as a community is an awareness of what makes us special and like this fierce desire to protect it, and yet grow it in a responsible way. And so much of that's beyond our control.
That's right. Henry Cisneros has a new book, Mega Region.
Love it.
And it's great talking about that from an economic standpoint, how we're growing together. And I know with my practice, we do stuff in Austin and Georgetown and up the 130 corridor, and I see that. But I think San Antonio, what you're saying is we have an identity, right? We have our own unique identity that we need to lean into, and it's something we have the only Alamo in the country. We have the only Alamo on the planet.
Yeah.
We have a river walk that other people are emulating, and look at Oklahoma City. Their Bricktown area, they built their own kind of Riverwalk canal, basically. And people like that about San Antonio. We've made major investments that have been transformative, like the improvements to the Riverwalk during the Depression, and then, of course, Hemisphere in the 1960s. And so you talk about the downtown and how important it is and those unique qualities, except it seems like it's only every several generations that we make a huge transformational investment in downtown San Antonio. Why do you think that is?
Good
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. Some of it's just around the natural cycle, I think, of leadership and people. I was asked a question earlier today about why I hired a certain firm to do something, and it just struck me. I mean, you don't hire firms; you hire people.
I like that.
Like, I don't. This was about baseball specifically. Why'd you hire Populous? I'm like, I don't know anybody named Populous. Like, I know a dude named Byron, and a guy named Jeff who helped. You hire humans. So often, I think we can just talk about things in these big, broad generalities and faceless things. But I mean, if you look back and through Henry's book, which I really like, by the way, I mean, it's kind of easy to pick out these humans who just got passionate about something and decided to make it happen, whether it's Tom Frost or Lila Cockrell or fill in the blank. We have these humans in the arc of San Antonio, and I think we're in a remarkable spot from that perspective right now. When I look at those of us in the community that are passionate about it and have the guts and are willing to take the risk to see change, improvement, I think we're in a good spot there. I have a little bit of a different, I guess, hope about what the next big investment is. And certainly Project Marvel, the sports entertainment district, and what the Spurs are willing to invest downtown. I would hope that on our side of downtown, that our continued investments in residential around a really fun family amenity called a ballpark, like, I hope that we look back in 20 to 30 years and we say, the generational investment we made in regional economic development, which is 3 words that really just mean the economic mobility of our beloved humans. That's the generational investment we should be making, not a $1 billion arena that's going to be badass, not a really great ballpark, not a ton of great places to live. That's good and necessary, but entirely insufficient. What is sufficient is investing in the economic mobility and opportunity for our whole region. And by region, we've all talked about this. I'm not talking about the city of San Antonio or Bexar County. I mean our region, down to the valley, up to Austin, and everything in between. And that's kind of what I hope. I don't know. There will never be another Henry. I don't know who writes the next book on this, but I hope it's that.
I think Randy Smith writes the next book on this.
Randy Smith can't spell very well, and but
or spell check, my friend.
But I hope that folks will say, man, in the 20s, those people went really hard at lifting up pockets of the community that didn't really have that sort of economic mobility opportunity before.
I wish that everybody saw projects like this through your lens. And I think a lot of people do, but there is policy wrapped up in getting these projects up off the ground. And I don't want to dive into the politics of it all, but just can you share where we are in the process of getting that baseball field, the stadium done?
Of course. Yeah, sure. And it's been a while. It's been, I think, almost 18 months since we navigated sort of the public process. And obviously, there's been a way more public process in between. So if folks have sort of forgotten the baseball mechanism, that's understandable, of course. But recall that for there to be a new ballpark, we have to simultaneously develop around $350 to $375 million worth of adjacent property. And I think this is a very healthy mechanism. This is born of our community's very rightful scar tissue around sports facilities being financed and developed and then nothing happening. Mm-hmm. So that's, again, that's also another topic for another podcast. But that's the mechanism that we all agreed to put in place to say, hey, there's no risk of that. And the way we know there will be no risk of that, when I say that, I mean a stadium or an arena happening and then nothing happening around it, is because A, of where we're going to put it to begin with.
Right.
And then B, how about we don't even start it until adjacent development is happening? Mm-hmm. And that was an approach that seemed to resonate with folks. So to answer your question, in a vacuum, baseball's going amazing.
Great.
Like I've always wondered what I might be good at. It might just be thinking about minor league baseball stadiums.
So for those people listening and not watching, you have this big smile and your eyes get lit up when you just said that.
Stephanie, my wife Rachel, she knows when I come home, she knows what days I've worked on the ballpark. She knows it for sure. I mean, come on. I'm in a season of life right now where my kids will finish the sentence, but do y'all watch football?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah.
The coaches, the legendary coaches.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of years ago, there was a great sort of coverage about their dad. I think his name's Jack Harbaugh, and he had this line that he would say to them as kids. He would say, "Who has it better than us?" And the boys would go, "Nobody." And it has really stuck. And I'm telling you, I'm in that. I say that all the time around my kids now. And it's about a perspective, and it's about being grateful for what you have and not worrying about what you don't have. And it's like, dang, my truest passion right now is coaching my kids in sports. And just Wednesday night, I was coaching the vaunted Woodpecker Lips.
Woodpecker
I
Lips.
don't know
Woodpecker
anything
Lips.
you just said.
My daughter's basketball team that I coach, we're called the Woodpecker Lips.
Oh.
And
Okay.
that's the response it elicits. But her whole life, I've told her that she's tougher than Woodpecker Lips, and it just morphed into our team name. But
That's
we're standing
fun.
around a basketball gym, and I'm standing next to a dad that I don't know. I had never met the man, and he was clearly watching his daughter play. We were waiting for our game, and he was cheering for his daughter. And I said, "Hey, man, which one's yours?" He said, "Oh, that's her over there, number 5." And it just came out. I said, "Man, who has it better than us?" And he sort of looked at me like, What? What did you just say? I said, "No, really. Look, it's a Wednesday night, and we live in America, in San Antonio, Texas, and we get to watch little girls play basketball. Like, who has it better than us?"
That's sweet.
In a lot of ways, that's the spirit that comes home with me from days where we get to work on baseball. Like designing family fun. Who has it better than that? It's the other stuff. Rachel also knows the days that I come home and we've been trying to capitalize adjacent projects. Like, as everyone knows, it is 2026. It's the beginning of 2026. And capitalization of development is exceedingly difficult. So when people ask, how's baseball going? I tend to give them a bifurcated answer of baseball itself is amazing. The multifamily, the urban multifamily development world is treacherous.
But you're confident it's going to all come together at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, Stephanie, I am maybe the original irrational optimist. I mean, I believe all of it's going to happen. It will happen.
It will happen. Me too.
Yes.
You and I are going to make sure this happens.
We're in. Come on.
So, Randy, I'm getting the impression that what you do in your life today is better than being stuck in the bowels of a law firm in Virginia drafting real estate contracts. Are you saying this life is better than the alternate life?
I have an abundance of gratitude for the path that I have gone down. Yes, for sure.
Okay, Randy, what we
Yes,
do
ma'am. Okay.
at the end of every episode is we have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So I'm gonna throw some at you. First thing that comes to your mind. Favorite San Antonio building, past or present?
Tower Life. Not even close. Yeah, what a stunner.
I agree.
Go Ed Cross and McCombs and all the people doing the Lord's work. That thing's amazing.
I know. And we're going to get him on here to talk about it. Old buildings or new ground up development?
Old.
Love that. I knew you'd say that.
Come on.
Baseball or football?
Basketball.
Oh. Okay.
Wait, are we talking about to participate in or to watch? Participate in basketball, by far, greatest team sport ever invented. To watch, I mean, even my 9-year-old knows this, like football's undefeated.
Agreed.
I mean, there's nothing finer than sitting on your couch, getting fat, watching football.
With some cold
Making some
beers.
bad decisions, yes.
Coffee or cocktail meetings?
Coffee.
Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Oh.
If I am awake at 9:30, there's been an emergency.
Okay.
Or a really great Spurs game.
PM, you mean?
Yeah. And I don't know. I could probably go back and quantify this sometime. I probably should, but I would guess that 90% of the emails that I sent are sent between the hours of 4:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. when my kids get up. I was never that way until Duncan, our first, came along, and then it was like, whoop, time to get up. But same way, no alarm.
4:30, man.
Yeah.
Natural.
Favorite downtown lunch spot?
I'm going to give you a couple. look, Pinkerton's is really hard to beat. The Center Club right now is doing a wedge salad with some salmon on top that is not to be missed. That's what I had. Actually, that's what I had for lunch today before I came here.
Their steak frites is also fantastic.
The slices at Leo's, if you're in a hurry, and Leo's really being one of the last places downtown. I mean, those slices are huge. They're the size of that table, and I think you can get out the door for like $5 or something, and they're quick. And then Chad, who we talked about earlier, Chad Carey, just opened a ramen place.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm not
Where?
really a ramen aficionado. It is just right next to Royal Blue Grocery in the Savoy Building on Houston.
Oh.
okay.
It is excellent. And it has a fun name. It is called Kaidama Battleship. And I don't know, you'll have to have Chad on here and ask him
Oh, I drove past it.
where he comes up
Well,
with
ask
it.
Chad about
I
it.
need to know
Yes.
where that came from. Okay. Best advice you've ever received?
I don't know that it's advice as much as it is encouragement to live your life by a certain principle. And it's the principle that Rachel and I attempt to pass on to our kids. And it's just the principle of being third. So in our house, being third. In our house, it's very clear. It's God first, others second, I'm third. And so we tend to it's funny, the older your kids get and the more complex their challenges get, the more valuable simplicity becomes. So, as we all navigate through this thing of teens and being parents and hitting that home stretch of their time with us here at home, like, I think there's a ton of value in keeping things simple and just almost regardless of the challenge, if we sit down and go, hey, let's put it through the lens of being third here. It just seems to work itself out.
I love that. I'm going to use that. Last one. What excites you most about San Antonio's future?
Holy moly, the humans.
I love
Truly, it's amazing. And I want to talk about Rexa for a little bit.
Yes, please.
I was fortunate enough to participate in your leadership development program when I had moved here and I knew nobody. I didn't know anybody. I didn't grow up here. I had been in Richmond, Virginia, as we talked about, and I landed at a home builder and with some amazing coworkers, one of whom still works with me to this day, and a lot of whom I still see on a daily or weekly basis. But I didn't really know the industry or the community. And through that LDP class, and I love that you still do it, and we will always help that in any way possible. It was my first experience with capital C community in San Antonio. And the way that people that, even if they don't know you very well, just sort of give you this great, big, huge benefit of the doubt here that I don't think exists in other communities. And so my first experience with that was with LDP. And then it has just continued for 20 years. And so, again, buildings are cool. Arenas are great. Sports, I believe, are one of the most uniquely positive aspects of American life. But all that pales in comparison to like humans. And that's why we're here, is just to love each other and serve each other. And I think that San Antonio does that better than any other community in America.
That was beautiful.
It's great.
That was. What a way to close up the podcast.
Thank you.
You're a friend of the industry. You're a friend to Rexa. You're a friend to us. You're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
And here we go.
Yes, and
All
thank
right.
you all for listening and watching Breaking Ground SA from the IBC Bank studio. We'll see you next episode.
Bye-bye.